Yeah, well, it works out pretty good. We hope that we're not breaking the camera today by having the close-up shots, but maybe you guys might like that for sure. So let's get into it. I know people love the fact that we just dive right into it. So we are now in the middle of the summer blockbuster time. So we're going to have movies coming out left and right, and they're going to be all over the road. Some are going to be good ones, some are going to be bad ones. But let's think about this. Last time we talked, it was Memorial Day weekend. Before that, it was Mother's Day. And so here we are, right sandwiched in between Father's Day, getting ready to do this. And what I thought we would do is, since we're in June, that's half the year already. So I thought we might start off with the best movies of 2019 thus far. So do you have 10?
I have 10. I
Was it
going to be hard, but then I started going through my Letterboxd list of movies I've watched this year, and actually I came up with like 15.
Wow.
Good movies, but I had to pare it down to 10, so I got a good 10. Surprisingly, no comic book movies on my list.
Yeah, that's a tough call right there. Were these, and these were films that were released theatrically? Or
they were.
This
I saw every one of these except one I saw in theaters, but the one I didn't see in theater, I saw it on streaming, but it came out this year, so.
Oh man,
I got to see it.
That's pretty good. Well, I had to cheat a little bit myself. I did pick a couple from Netflix, and then ones that I actually didn't see in the theater. It wasn't until they got to Netflix that I actually saw them, because how do you keep up with all the good movies? How do you know? Yeah. So let's start with number 10. So who do you have at number 10, best movies of 2019 so far, if you just joined us?
Okay, you want to do your list first and I'll do mine?
Okay, or we can intercut it, either way.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so number 10 for me is the movie Glass. This was one of the anticipated movies that I had, but it makes it into my top 10, but just barely. I think it's just that I love the original Unbreakable, and I had to see what happened here. So what about your number 10?
I don't like to rank my films, so I just made a random list and just put them together. But at 10 on my list, I have this movie called Under the Silver Lake, and this is one I saw on VOD. David Robert Mitchell is the director. It stars Andrew Garfield. Very California film, very weird, very 60s vibe. It's a mystery. He meets this beautiful girl, and then she disappears, and then he spends the rest of the movie just looking for her. But it's a very odd film. It's he's just searching for clues and things, and yeah, it's pretty wild. I just enjoyed it because it was just so different from a lot of stuff I see.
That's right. Well, you do like, because you know that the best movies usually aren't in big, huge theatrical releases a lot of times. Yeah. Well, that's pretty good. At number 9, I had the movie Us, and yes, it's not in my top 5. It's at number 9. I thought this was okay. I think his first film, Get Out, was a little bit better than this one. I felt like this one had way too much going on for what it needed to be. Although some people love the extra complexity, but then I think there's a time when complexity gets a little bit too ridiculous, and I think this may have suffered from that. What about you, Carlos?
I think he was getting trying to get too deep, but that's it seems to be that's his style.
Yeah.
So whatever works for him, whatever he likes to do. He's an artist. Let him do it. If people respond to it,
let him do his thing, right? Yeah,
exactly. So
I'm good with that. How about you for number 9?
Number 9, I have this movie called Destroyer.
Not the Kiss album?
Not the Kiss album, which is a great album. Love Kiss. Directed by Karen Kusama, one of my favorite women directors. She's done some really interesting work. Nicole Kidman, she plays a detective, and it's got a real neat twist to it. I think the performance by Nicole Kidman is probably one of her best, and man, she looks pretty raw in this film. I mean, you see her, she went all out as far as just letting every blemish, and her hair is not like you usually see Nicole Kidman. If you imagine her, this beautiful silky hair. This girl looks like she hasn't washed her hair in like weeks.
Wow.
Man, she looks ragged, but her performance is amazing. The script is tight. It's just a great piece of film. I love it.
Wow, so she was kind of deconstructed. Was it kind of like Charlize Theron in that movie Monster?
Monster, exactly. Yeah. That you could kind of compare it to that, except she plays a a good person versus sure.
The first female serial killer.
Monster, right?
And number 8, because I know you guys like lists. Number 8 for me is Brightburn, which is a pretty recent film. I thought the concept was great. The idea of doing a dark superhero film in a way, if you will, even though it's not a superhero. Yeah. The idea of what if Clark Kent decided to be dark? What if he was Damon Omen in a sense? And so I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. I like we talked about it. The performance by the lead actress. Can't think of her name right now, but great.
Yeah.
Work.
What about you for number 8?
Number 8, I had Cold War. Pawlikowski.
Yeah.
I saw that this year. I think it may be considered a 2018 film. But I didn't see it in theaters until 2019, so I put it on my 2019 list. Black and white film. You saw it, right?
I did see it. It was a good film.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And I think it was released in 2018 just so they could put it in the Oscars, but the wider release was in 2019. So judges, they'll let that count for 2019.
Yeah.
He's like so formal.
As far as I'm concerned, it's 2019. I saw it in 2019. I don't usually, when I make my top 10 of the end of the year list, I don't do that though. I put everything that was officially 2019. I go to IMDb. If it says 2019, I'll put it. If it says 2018, I won't.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because, man, sometimes I have to leave off films I saw that were released here in Dallas in 2019. An example was that Karen Bigelow film, Zero Dark 30.
Zero Dark 30.
I didn't see that until like January or something, but it was considered the year before. So.
Wow. Yeah. It's like that. I think Green Book would be the same way. It was released in 2018, but most people probably saw it in January 2019, so that's fair. At number 7, we learned how to say someone's last name. Tolkien. I have it number 7. Thought this was a good flick. What'd you think of that film, Carlos?
Loved it, man. I wanted to put it on my top 10. It just didn't make it. It was probably like number 11.
Whoa, okay.
But yeah, I loved everything about that film because it had so much to do with art, music, like literally every kind of art.
Yeah.
Painting, music, just everything. And I like the story it told of Tolkien.
Yeah. No, it was a great, solid, standout film. It was one we needed in a world that has nothing but sequels and reboots and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just the creativity of this man he created languages. Think of that. It's amazing. The guy was a genius, obviously.
Yeah, and he hung out with some geniuses too, didn't he?
Absolutely.
I think that's something to be said when you hang out with smart people. You just hang out with smart people and see what happens.
Exactly.
At number 6, this was a documentary. Finally, one of the documentaries hit my list, and this is They Shall Not Grow Old. So here's this idea of taking World War I, and it's black and white, but then taking the film and adding in color and the artistic work, and then having the kids, because they were kids back then, 18, 19-year-olds, intercutting their stories and just making a film. I thought it was great.
Using the real, recordings of these soldiers and what they went through, and amazing work by Peter Jackson, who's obviously an aficionado of World War I. He collects uniforms, medals, everything he can get on World War I. He has it, and the research he must have done, the hours and hours of footage that he had to go through, and and that's what I have on mine at number 7 is They Shall Not Grow, Peter Jackson.
Yeah, that's Peter Jackson.
And I have to believe that by the end of the year, that's still going to be on my top 10.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it was amazing watching it on the big screen, seeing that sequence where it went from black and white to color. That was like jaw dropping. Like, wow.
If you guys haven't seen it, I think right now it's on Netflix, right? So I think
yes,
it's on Netflix right now. So
definitely streaming. You can find it. You won't get the same experience as seeing it on the big screen, I don't think, but it's definitely worth watching.
Now, you saw it at the IMAX?
I saw it at North Park, I believe.
Yeah.
It was one of the big screens. Yeah, or it might have been the Angelica.
Yeah. No, it's good. Now we're getting to the top 5, so we're slowly marching to the top, the cream of the cream. For me, number 5, and I have to explain it. It is Avengers Endgame. And it's fair for me to say that I enjoyed the film more, like from an entertainment perspective. At the same time, it's also like a sigh of relief because I think they needed to shut this thing down so that we can focus on some new characters, get some new things.
Mm-hmm.
So they did that. But really, the reason why it's this high up on the list is mainly because I got a chance to see Black Panther again, even though although it was very brief. But I liked his introduction coming in at the end with Cap and all of that. So that was enough from a fanboy position. This is not a critical choice that's here at number 5. It's more of a fanboy thing. And
you think that will be on your list by the end of the year?
I love that question. No. I think it will get bumped by several things more than likely. Because I don't see Tolkien sliding off my list. Really? I don't see Thou Shalt Not Grow Old sliding off my list. But Avengers could be bumped for sure.
And some of these movies could go off my list and some could come back. So I'm going to do 2 in a row here because at number 7 I've got Alita Battle Angel. Robert Rodriguez, love that film. Mm-hmm. Big spectacle film. I love the story. I love the lead character. From what I've seen online, the fans of this thing are very passionate. If any time James Cameron posts anything about Avatar, these fans will jump in. What about Alita 2? Is Alita 2 coming in? Alita. And they're good. Wow. They're going nuts for it. It's like the fans that wrote hardcore for John Carter. Mm-hmm. They love the film so much, and then it didn't get as much box office or as popular as some people expected. But the fans are hardcore, and I believe that's the same with this film as well. I hope to God they do make a sequel to it. I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, this one definitely deserves a sequel. I know there's some movies that shouldn't have a sequel at all. We got them, and some movies got brought up from the past that we didn't need, like Charlie's Angels and stuff like that. Or at least if you were going to do that, they need to do a lot better with a lot better cast. And interesting that you broke the spades there on Alita, because at number 4, the number 4 movie I've seen in 2019 thus far is Alita Battle Angel, and for the same reason that you said. In fact, this is way better than Captain Marvel ever thought it was going to be in the theater. Oh, yeah. I think that Marvel really got taken to task by Alita, because Mr. Rodriguez shot an excellent film, and I think that's the way action probably should look when it's spontaneous and when you see people just diving into it before. I think what you see in Marvel is it's just a lot of blown up hype going on around it and a bunch of cuts of other things. But this, I thought, stayed pretty much on the action, so you could see the kicks, the punches.
Kind of reminded me of, did you see the Wachowski Speed Racer?
I did.
It had that kind of kinetic action movement, and the roller death ball scene, whatever they call it. I love those scenes; those are so fun. And it had humor, subtle humor, and I just love the lead. Some of her little scenes, they came out just very heartfelt. Scenes. It was a girl looking for her own identity.
Yeah. I think we'll never get tired of the stories.
Exactly.
Right? Because, in all of us, there's that piece.
You can relate to it whether you're male or female. You just want to find your own identity in the world.
That's right.
Who you really are.
And we didn't have the actress all on the film making harsh statements and direct statements in a lot of ways. She just is an actress that's in this film that they used, and they made that cyborg thing work out real nicely. So, I loved it. Number 3, we're getting in the top 3 now, films of 2019.
Let me catch up to you.
Uh-oh.
I'm like 2 behind.
Okay, come on.
Okay, let me get my number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My number 5 is Apollo 11 documentary. Used all color footage of the Apollo 11 mission. Great documentary. I saw this on the big screen too, and I was blown away. I believe it was on IMAX as well at the North Park screen. And man, that was an experience to watch. And they took so much footage of every angle. The command center scenes. They did an amazing job on that stuff. I loved it.
Wow.
My number 4 is a movie called High Life. Claire Denis. She's French, I believe. She may pronounce her name Denis, but I'll say Claire Denis.
Why not?
I'm just not sure. Robert Pattinson is the lead.
The Batman?
The new Batman, yeah. Is that official? I keep seeing this rumor, but they say Warner Brothers has announced said, I'll take their word for it.
Right.
It'll be interesting. But yeah, it's a science fiction, I guess, and it's a very strange film. And these are the kind of films I kind of like because they're just so bizarre. I won't explain the movie.
Yeah.
Nobody will get it. but he's great in it, and the lead actress is as well. Juliette Binoche. She's a French actress.
Juliette Binoche.
Yeah, she's amazing in it. She always does great work. Okay.
Wow. Now we're ready. Okay, we're there now. So 3, folks. We're at the big 3 here. Big 3. And so for me, it's John Wick 3.
The Germans do this.
Right? That's right. They do it this way, right?
Glorious bastards.
Someone does it. They do that. Yeah. So John Wick 3. So again, I could say why make yet another one, but they did. They stayed with their central focus. I think the best thing about the John Wick series is the world building.
Yes.
All the world building in John Wick is pretty nice.
Love it.
The struggle with the film, of course, is just that, after this movie, where do you go next? At some point, you're going to run into some problems, and you're going to have to do some really creative thinking to do something different for John Wick. Because if it's just sending a bunch of new bad guys out after him, and he kills each and every one of them, that's going to kind of play out. But it was still shot well. We got some great action set pieces.
Beautiful visuals, exactly.
Yeah, so I put it there. What about you?
Number 3, I have a movie called Vox Lux.
Vox Lux?
Brady Corbett film. It stars Natalie Portman. She plays a pop star. And it shows scenes of her as a young girl and then her as a grown up. And it's kind of heavy drama. Jude Law's in it. I like those 2 actors. I always loved Natalie Portman ever since The Professional, that Luc Besson film. And as she's grown from a child actor to an adult actor, which is kind of rare, sometimes child actors don't transition well into adults. Chloe Moretz, she was a great child actress.
She's done great.
I don't think she's that great anymore.
She's lost a little bit.
Yeah, interesting film. It was one of those films that were kind of different, and I just liked it.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't seen it, so I'm going to have to put that on my list to check it out, because if you say that it's pretty good, then I know it's at least worth a watch.
It's not... I
not
would
for
say
everybody?
it's a movie that's not for everybody. You got to kind of like these kind of movies.
Okay.
It's an art film,
Yeah. I'm trying to think I know I have a few films like that on the list for myself as well. I know not a lot of people will be into the Mr. Rogers one, Won't You Be My Neighbor, but I thought that was a really well done documentary.
I still need to see that.
And
I know I hesitate to see that because I know I was going to bawl my eyes out in that movie.
Well, it's
because I like Mr. Rogers. I think the guy is a sincerely good man. You never found anything, any kind of, behind the scenes that he, was inappropriate with somebody. Like just about everybody these days does it. That guy was like, he was a saint. Literally a saint.
Yeah, and I think that's
Really
what
good
people
art.
should know. If you haven't had a chance to see that one, we'll plug that. But yeah, Won't You Be My Neighbor from last year, probably one of the best documentaries. And I love how it's very candid. It's his wife and his 2 sons, and they're very different, the 2 sons,
really?
Right? One looks like he went on to be an educator. The other one looks like he might just be the kind of beach bum guy. But when they start telling the story, and then the black actor that he had on the show, a lot of times his name is slipping right now, who's a gay guy, he was on there talking about how his impact, even though Mr. Rogers was Christian but he still loved him, and that's what he talked about. Is he said he still cared about him.
Yes.
He maybe didn't agree with his choices, but
And that's a problem with a lot of Christians today. I hate to get off on a political rant or whatever. Is so-called Christians? They're not very Christian. They're very judgmental, and that's kind of one of the reasons I kind of fell away from church, man. I hate to get. I don't want to talk about it.
it is Sunday, but we won't. Now and I'm definitely one of those guys that I am still very connected, but I have a good community of believers, and They're not that type.
That's
you
good.
know, because you always run into those fringe groups, right? And no matter what it is, whether it's politics, religion, sports, there's good cowboy fans who I get along with, and there's some cowboy fans I can't stand. Isn't it crazy? And same thing with Marvel. See how I brought that back? So we're going to the top 2 films of 2019 so far. This is June. It's only half the year, which means there's another half of greatness coming. And for me, number 2, I had to cheat here. I took a Netflix film that when I watched, I was floored, and this was Triple Frontier. So this starred Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Pedro Pascal, and I'm missing one, Ben Affleck.
One of my favorite dudes.
Yes, and this film, I'm telling you, it sneaks up on you. You start watching, you're thinking, okay, this is the usual fare. Here's some military guys who are badasses who are probably going to go do some capering, do it under the wire, you know, some real Taken type stuff. But as you watch it, you start to see that it becomes a story about the human nature. This greed piece comes in, and what they're willing to do, and then what was it worth for what the things that they do. I'm talking very non-spoilers for you guys because I really want you to see it. But you saw it, right? What did you think?
Exactly. And it kind of towards the second half, basically almost turns into like a survival film, which those are the kind of movies I like too.
Yes.
In the wilderness, and you're screwed, and you have to figure out a way to get to the next place and the next place. What was that Liam Neeson movie about the wolves?
Yes. I love that movie too.
That kind of movie where it's just men being men and camaraderie and trying to help each other. Yeah, and then some turn on each other. You know, it's just like a microcosm of society. Just one of those type of films. I love it.
See, I think it's a one-word title. I think. Yeah. See, now that's going to beat me up. I'll try to figure it out. But I love that film.
I just lose the tip of my tongue.
Yes, I loved that film as well, and I think that's what we want to see. I think as we go forward, you'll see masculinity being reshaped, and it's becoming more flamboyant and feminine in some kind of ways. But if you go back and look at the classic portrayal of masculinity, you see guys toughening up and just dealing with their situations.
Treasure of the Sierra Madre. That's a classic.
Yes.
They're just men. You know,
Yeah.
Greed and
And I think that's the deal, because I think we just kind of overcorrected. You know, here I am going on a rant. I think we just kind of overcorrected, and we've kind of said, we're tired of seeing masculine guys. We want to see more guys who are in touch with their feminine side. To which I say, quit touching it. We've seen it already. So let's show the nice blend that you have some guys that are alphas, they're assertive, they're aggressive. And you have some guys who are more pensive, they sit back, they think a little bit. And then some guys are a mixture of both. So men aren't monolithic and neither are women. I just think this idea we've kind of pushed way the other direction. But number 2 for you?
Number 2, speaking of toxic masculinity, movie called Dragged Across Concrete. It's Craig Zoller. This is the guy who directed Bone Tomahawk. This is like that horror western.
Okay.
This movie is so violent, and it stars Mel Gibson, which everybody hates now. And
Yes.
Bond. Play 2 hardcore detectives who will, they're bad dudes, man. You just can't say it any other way. And man, that ending, that third act is just unbelievable. I loved it. These are just kind of movies I like. I just super violent movies.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's just the visuals, right? Yeah. Sometimes you don't need to hear a lot of dialogue and one-liners. You're the disease. I'm the cure. Sometimes you just viscerally just need to see it.
And the chemistry between the characters played by Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn, it's kind of hilarious. I mean, it has that. It's humor. They pick at each other. They get on each other's nerves, or at least mostly Vince Vaughn gets on Gibson's nerves. But it's funny. I love it.
That's interesting, because that would have made my list had I'd seen it. But it's one of those movies I wanted to see, because you're not the only guy that told me about it, that said it was a really good film that I would enjoy.
I saw it at the theater, and then as soon as it came out on VOD, I watched it again. I love it that much.
I love it. So that's a good plug. Dragged Across Concrete. Note to self.
Another one of those that's not for everybody, because not everybody loves super violent movies about mostly male characters. But then it goes off on some of these oddball scenes that just kind of go on forever. They're just kind of hypnotic to watch, because you just watch it and watch it. It's like, what is this scene leading to? But then it kind of pays off later. So
No. Wow. Well, I'm excited to see it. I know for sure. Number one, we're going to the number one movie, in my opinion. These are just our list. This isn't right or wrong. It's just our list of some guys who watch a lot of movies a year. Our favorite films. And number one for me at this moment is Rocketman. I saw it again the second time. And usually when you see a film a second time, you notice things you didn't notice the first time. Yeah. I noticed the genius, even more so, of Taron Egerton in this role. Like, every time he was on screen, I didn't see Taron Egerton. I didn't see Eggsy from Kingsman. I saw Elton John. And he was so seamless in his portrayal here. Yeah. I just couldn't get away from it. And then I just love the visuals that they put to his music, because his music lends itself for very fanciful type imagery. And it's like, when you look at that, pound for pound, I can't think, Carlos, maybe you can think of a film, I can't think of who's done a better solid acting job so far in 2019. I don't know that I've seen a better script on a topic that's kind of done, right? Biopics we've seen before. Right. But the script here really pulls out. It doesn't do a, hey, here's a happily ever after. It just takes him right where he is at that moment and deconstructs him. He's the good guy in the beginning. He becomes the bad guy somewhere in the middle, and then he's redeemed. And all that with some great music that was incredible, and the way it was used, it punched to me to the heart. There were moments where I teared up in this movie.
Really beautiful scene. The one where Bernie brings him over that music, and he just goes downstairs to his piano and starts playing. It's a little bit fun. That whole scene, man, just like, oh man, that choked me up. Yeah, I definitely great stuff.
You guys, I'm serious. This is 10 times better than Bohemian Rhapsody. If Rami Malek can win an Academy Award for his portrayal of Freddie Mercury, then Taron Egerton has to get 3 awards for the same one, because if you look at that and then compare this, they don't even hold a candle.
He did his own singing, which Rami Malek did not do.
Yeah, he did his own singing, and to me, he had to stretch further.
It was Rami Malek's performance was more mimicry.
Yes,
and I think Taron Egerton was just pure acting.
Correct.
Acting skill, captured the essence of Elton John, and just did an amazing job with it. But yeah, you really felt for the guy. You saw him as a human being, not a super pop star.
Yes.
You know, I grew up in the era of Elton when he was the hugest. You know, I went to go see the Tommy musical because you know, the Who Tommy, Ken Russell film, because Elton John was going to be in it. He was going to play the pinball wizard. And it was like, oh yeah, I got to go see that. But then I was blown away by that film. It was so the visuals in that film. If you've never seen Tommy the film, you got to see it.
Yeah, the only music biopic that I can think of where an actor became the subject would have been Chadwick Boseman as James Brown. James Brown is extremely hard to do, folks, because he has a very unique voice. Oh, yeah. And just his moves and everything else, and the time frame he came from.
That must have been hard to do.
But Chadwick Boseman, if you haven't seen Get On Up, if you haven't seen that biopic, Chadwick Boseman looks nothing like Taron Egerton, doesn't look anything like Elton to me. Chadwick doesn't look anything like James Brown. But after a while, you forget and you think you're looking at him. Because you have to imagine when they do makeup and they do the hair and stuff, it's going to either look like a disaster when they try to make those big bouffant hairs, or it just, you go, yep, that's what they wore in the 60s and that sort of thing. So other than that, and I think Taron might even have Chadwick beat on this, because, and maybe it's just because I've just seen this movie, but if you haven't seen Rocketman, if you're going to go see Godzilla instead, in terms of the film, Rocketman's the better film. You may like Godzilla, totally agree. You know, but you got to see this. And your number one, Carlos?
Okay, like I said, I didn't put these in any particular order. This just happened to be the first one I wrote down, but it's
top of mind.
Climax by Gaspar Noé. He's a French director. It's a movie I think we talked about on Fulfilment earlier.
We did, yeah.
One of the episodes. It's basically takes place during one night. A group of dancers who are celebrating their final show, and man, it is just a visual. All of Gaspar Noé's films are just mind blowing, and I loved it.
Wow, yeah.
I didn't say much more.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it, but
I wouldn't recommend it for you.
You wouldn't recommend it?
Nah.
Yeah.
You got to have a particular kind of sensibility for
Okay.
those type of films. It's up to you if you want to watch it, but you're either going to like it or hate it.
So it's giving me the warning.
What am I watching? Ugh, horrible. Yeah.
It's giving me the warning up front, so I think I will take that under advisement.
Yeah, you have to be a Gaspar Noé fan.
Well, just like that, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to move to another familiar segment, actually the first segment, which is called Picks of the Week. And so with the Picks of the Week this week, what we noticed was that, very interestingly, there's several movies, but we just picked three that we thought were probably the most dynamic, or the ones that most might be on people's radar. So here are the three. I'll list the three, then we'll go discuss them. And then we'll talk a little bit about which one we think would be the one to go see this week. So the first one up is The Secret Life of Pets 2. So we have yet another sequel. It's a comedy. It's an hour and 26 minutes, directed by director Christopher Noe and Jonathan Del Valle. So, and it stars Kevin Hart, Harrison Ford are the actors, the voice actors in it. X-Men Dark Phoenix, which a lot of the fanboys are going to go see this week. It's sci-fi fantasy. It's another Marvel film. This is an hour and 53 minutes, so it's the longest film out of the three that we're going to talk about today. The director Simon Kinberg again on this topic of this Dark Phoenix thing again. And we got McAvoy, Fassbender, and J-Law. Jennifer Lawrence is some of your primary actors in it. And then there's a movie called Late Night. It's a comedy. It's an hour and 42 minutes. The director is Nisha Gananatra, if I can say that right. It's like Sinatra, but Gananatra, I guess. And she's got two good actors in this. She's got John Lithgow, one of my favorite, and Emma Thompson. So let's start with the obvious. Let's go with Secret Life of Pets 2. So what do you think of this film?
Yeah. I mean, if I had kids, maybe I'd take them to see it, but it's not. I'm not the target audience.
Yeah.
Heavy pass on that.
Yeah, this one.
I can't remember if I've.
Did you see the first one?
The first one. I think I've seen clips of it because they always put whole scenes now on YouTube or whatever. And you can watch. I don't care about it.
I saw the first one. I will say that this is the case of the trailer being much better than the movie. The funniest stuff is in the trailers because the idea with this movie is it's about what do pets do when the owners leave for the day, and so they show you a bird.
Toy Story with pets.
Yeah, Toy Story with pets, and so they're gone, and so some of the stuff looked funny, like the dog that was the poodle that was listening. They were listening to was it classical music, and then as soon as the owner left, she put on some Metallica, and the poodle was going like this, and I was like, yes, this feeds my inner Beavis and Butthead on this when they were doing that. And so I thought, oh, this is going to be a great movie if that's the case, but no, it goes down another row of thinking, another silo, if you will, and Kevin Hart is actually annoying.
Let me guess, there's a kid in it, and they got to either save the kid or find the kid.
Well, it's very close. There's a hierarchy of animals, and Kevin Hart's part of the bad animals who want to do things because they've all been abandoned by their owners. Okay. So they're the bad animals that live inside the sewer drains, and they want to affect the ones who have good because they're jealous, who have good masters and owners and sort of thing. But it turns into this, and Kevin Hart, after a while, I'm sorry, my nerves just kind of get thin, and I just can't listen to it. So for me, no. Could you take the kids to it? Might they laugh? I'm sure, but the first one really wasn't good, and that doesn't bid very well at all. So that's how much time we'll give that one. Let's go to X-Men Dark Phoenix, which right now is in the controversy of being a divisive film because there's a lot of people who know this saga, the Dark Phoenix, which is a great told story in the comics. It's already been screwed up once by the same director, and some feel like it once again, twice we've screwed up. It's like building the Death Star twice. But was it a different one?
It was
because it was
Bryan Singer the first time? This is his first film, Simon Kinberg.
Is it his first film?
He produced the other ones.
That's it, the producer.
And Singer got kicked off the production, so he basically took over. That's what I'm guessing.
I think that's actually more accurate. And so with this being divisive, some people are saying, well, it's still entertaining, it's still fun, it's still a superhero movie, there's still some good set pieces. But then there are those who know the story, know the comic, know the storytelling part of it, and they just say, you know what, it just adds characters, do nothing for them. The characters just wait for something to do and then do something. So I hear, because I didn't go see it, but we will talk about just seeing it, and I think That's what you're hanging on to there. So, yeah, we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. And then this last one, I actually am kind of interested. I wasn't at first, but I have to admit I kind of am now. Late Nights, the only real comedy, I would say. The other one, Secret Life of Pets, is more of a children's film. But it's an hour and 42 minutes. Again, this Nisha Ganatra, she's produced more TV series. Okay. You, Me, and Us, or something like that. And then, of course, Emma Thompson is great, John Lithgow. So this movie, the synopsis is Emma Thompson's character is a talk show host who's losing in the ratings. And the boss is ready to get rid of her because she's kind of staid, she's old, there's nothing interesting about it. Okay. So there's this intern who's a young writer who's nothing like her, looks nothing like her, and she has all these great ideas because she comes from a different generation.
This is not Mindy Kaling, is it?
It is. It's her. It's her. Okay. And so she comes in, but she's like a funnier Rebel Wilson in a way. She's funnier, because I don't find Rebel Wilson as funny. But it's actually kind of has some genius to it, because just some of the things that the tropes that they play on, she kind of comes in, she smashes a little bit, and there's some pretty good humor in it. So in terms of comedies, it's kind of hard to see. So these are our 3 films: The Secret Life of Pets, X-Men: Dark Phoenix, Late Night. If you had to see any of these 3, which one would you end up giving your matinee money to? Because I know you wouldn't pay regular money.
No, that's right. Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix?
No interest in Late Night. I'll watch it probably eventually on Netflix.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay to go see it.
Yeah. Now, Late Night is one I'm going to say I would see, but at the matinee. I wouldn't spend full money, but I would go see it at the matinee. And by the way, if you go before 10 o'clock, if you go to the 10 o'clock showing at Alamo Draft House, I hope you guys have that, it's actually more discounted at 10 o'clock than the matinee itself is. I think you save $2 more. I think it's like $7, where it's normally $9 or $10 to go see the matinee at Alamo Draft House. So that's the greatness of Alamo Draft House. You guys owe me for that plug. Yeah, it's Merry Christmas. All right, so without our wiki, let's move into our second segment. This is Just Seen It. So Carlos, as our usual, we'll let you lead off. What have you just recently seen since we last?
Dark Phoenix.
You saw Dark Phoenix.
Yesterday.
Oh man, tell us about this movie.
And first showing of the day is, I think it was $5.
Okay.
Maybe. Well, yeah. So I'll tell you what, I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, I sat there, I watched it, I was entertained. I had to say, this is probably one of the most visually stunning Marvel films I've seen in a while.
Really?
It's the best X-Men visually.
Okay.
I gotta say. It was made for IMAX. I didn't see it in IMAX, but I could see how this would play even better on IMAX. Listening to the music, I said, wow, this score is really nice. And then I didn't read very much about it. I don't know. I didn't even know Kinberg directed it. But at the end of the movie, they showed the credits, music by Hans Zimmer. I said, wow, no wonder.
Wow.
Zimmer doing a Marvel film? This is unusual. Wow. But the music was great. The score was great. Sophie Turner, who played Phoenix, Jean Grey, did a solid job. She's beautiful to look at, man. This movie, has some beautiful close-ups of her.
Yeah.
And she's just got a nice face, just really pleasant to look at. All the other guys, McAvoy and Fassbender were, their usual selves. Fassbender, he didn't come in until later in the movie. McAvoy was from the beginning.
Magneto.
But, I heard later that they had done reshoots, and you could tell, because at the end of the movie, of course, McAvoy's bald. Because they go in different time periods. They go from 70s to 90s and now. And by the end of the movie, McAvoy's, bald and in a wheelchair. But then they show he's all bulked up because he's shooting glass, I think, or just had done glass.
Yeah. Wow.
But man, you could tell, from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, it was a physical difference in his body. Jennifer Lawrence, she was kind of, I'm going to say half-assing it. I think by now she was pretty...
Is she over it?
Over it and just ready to be done with it. So her character was just kind of very flat and bland. She gave it her professional effort, but
The old college track.
You know who was actually, they gave him a lot to do, and his character came out very well, was Beast. Nicholas Hoult. Yeah.
Really?
He had a lot to do. And his makeup looked a lot better than you saw in like First Class. From First Class to this movie,
So they got better.
it's a big difference in how they did his facial, you know, the blue, and the fur and everything. Amazing job.
Well, Nicholas was Tolkien, wasn't he?
So yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it better than Endgame.
Okay.
And,
wow.
and
better than Endgame. Y'all
better
heard
than
it.
Captain
Film Samurai
Marvel.
said that.
Yeah, I'd watch it again.
Okay.
And it's a nice finish. Honestly, I don't know. I've always heard the Phoenix story in X-Men comics. I never read it. Maybe I need to go back and find a collected, a softback version where they collect all the whole story and read the whole thing. And I'm sure with all these comic book movies, you're not pleasing everybody.
Sure.
So there's going to be the hardcore fans. Oh, you messed up this, you messed up that. It wasn't the real good, the best story. You're right, they did screw it up in the other one. But like I said, I just took the movie as the movie. I didn't take it as, okay, this is a great adaptation of that. I just saw it for what it was and for what it was.
See, and that's
I enjoyed
fair.
a lot of it.
I think that's fair. And I think what most people are
It's
still
not great.
upset.
It's not great cinema. Some of the dialogue is kind of, oh my god, they gave Jennifer Lawrence one of the worst lines in the movie, and it's another one of those things of you got to get the feminist message of. You might have seen this scene online. They played it where Jennifer Lawrence or Mystique is angry with Professor X. And he says, "Oh, all the women are the ones that are saving all the men here, and you should change the name from X-Men to X-Women."
Oh gosh,
Like,
really?
is that really necessary?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess I see why you're doing it, but to me, it just came off.
Yeah.
Cringed in my seat.
And I think as I talk to some of the Marvel fans, what they're just upset about is I think their expectation was higher just because the first time around it was botched so bad. And I haven't read I started to read, I never finished it, but I do want to read it just to see. And I think that's the territory. What I don't understand, Carlos, and maybe you know, is if you've got the comic book right there in front of you.
You've got it storyboarded for you.
You've
Right?
storyboarded, you have even dialogue right there. And it seems to me it's so strange that when to follow it and when not to follow it. Like, I don't know how they decide, well, let's follow this here. Oh, but let's don't do that here because we want to make a different thing out of it. And it's like, well, when do you decide what to follow and what not to follow? It seems so arbitrary.
And you gotta know that the directors of these movies, I bet you half the time they're not even comic book fans.
True.
They've never read the comics. They may have gone, once they got the job, they probably started reading them and stuff. But the writers, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. And I would like to see better writing in the movies because I think one of the refrains that we say a lot, and I know I say it a lot on my channel, is I'm tired of saying, well, it wasn't horrible. That's the whole. I mean, hey, how's your girlfriend? Well, she's not horrible. Hey, how's your mom? Well, she's not horrible. Hey, what do you think of that brand new car you just bought? Well, it's not horrible. I mean, the fact that we have to start off with, well, I liked it, but I'm not going to tell you it was the greatest film in the world. So we say it wasn't horrible. Here are the greats. And so it's just amazing to me why can't we write one big solid film that we can expect the direction to go in a nice area with some twists. A plot that makes sense, some actors who can deliver the lining, give us some emotionality so that we buy the character and have a concluding ending with some good soundtrack behind it. Right. It's like we don't do that anymore. It seems like here's the rant, okay? It's what we do now is we just say, hey, good enough. It'll sell some action figures, get it out of here. We have a production schedule because we have another superhero film to shoot right after this one. So let's jump to that. And so what's happening is you're seeing an assembly line of movies coming out that don't have any soul. To me, they have great visuals,
I
right?
agree, totally.
But
Settling
there's
for
no
mediocrity.
And that's why I liked it. The films that I watched, that's why I liked Rocketman, because it had soul. It could have just been another right off the line, and so.
And that's why the older I get, the more I'm gravitating towards foreign movies, and because those films are well crafted films,
Yes.
and they speak to me, and I get more out of them than the assembly line marketing.
Yeah.
You know,
Sell
behind
action
it.
figures, because once they figured out that they can make more money off the action figures than they could the movie, because they're cheaper to make and they stay on the shelf for a long time, and then all you have to do is just put little differences, like C-3PO with a red arm, C-3PO with a green arm, C-3PO with a LGBTQ flag on his arm. It'll sell just because. And so in a way, it's like the movies have become the side dish, and the action figure or the product that sold afterwards has become the main product. So it's pretty scary. Was there any other films that you saw this last time, or is it going to be some ones that I'm mentioning?
Yeah, Kingdom, Godzilla, and Rocketman.
Yeah.
We can go into those.
Very cool. So I did see Godzilla, because I'm a Godzilla fan. Grew up watching Godzilla in the 70s. Used to love Godzilla versus Megalon because I loved Jet Jaguar. I thought he was the coolest thing with his antennas that would pop up when he flew, and he was just I was into it. I was just a kid. I loved it back then. And I would say that Godzilla now, I would think with so many years of film behind us and knowing what stories work and what stories don't work, and with Godzilla it's so unique because you're not really watching the humans, you're watching the animals, but at the same time, or the kaiju, but at the same time, if the humans don't work, then it kind of makes the monsters not work as well as they could. Right? Because you can't make it just 2 hours of Godzilla stomping things. That'd be boring, right? So you do have to have some interesting human play. And I will say that this movie sure did try to get that right. Now, am I saying this is a bad movie? No, I'm going to say the line. It's not horrible, because it isn't. But it's not the best Godzilla film, in my opinion, unless you're judging it only from the lens of how many more fights there were, and how many more monsters, and how they shot it, and the homages. But I still like, and I think I can watch over and over again, is the 2014. Because the way Bryan Cranston sold his character, I cared about him. Of course, they killed him too early. If they had kept him around, that could have been the best Godzilla in film in recent time if they had kept Bryan Cranston around and not got rid of him for Aaron Johnson and what's her face, which they weren't horrible. They just didn't have any meat to them.
Was it Elizabeth Olsen?
It was Elizabeth Olsen. So it was Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, her brother, which in this film they're boyfriend or their husband and wife. So that's kind of interesting. But I think I can watch Godzilla 2014 again and again and again, and I see stuff, and I actually like it. I like the fact that they didn't just show the kaijus every 5 minutes. Now, it did get a little bit annoying, because they do that sort of thing, but I did like King of the Monsters. I will say it was entertaining. I did get to see King Ghidorah, and I got to see Rodan, and I got to see Mothra. And again, good themes. Some of them, the sound, some of the themes that they took from the original films were there, which they weren't in 2014. So I'll give it that over 2014.
They even did a neat little take on the little twins.
Yes, they did. They were in it. So I really appreciated this film, so I'm not going to hate it. I'm going to tell you that if you like King of the Monsters, if you like kaiju movies, I think you'll be okay with this movie. I think it'll be fine for you. And then the other one was Rocketman. We talked a little bit about it again. I just saw it again just this past Friday after seeing it twice. Still believe that this is the best film. Whatever film is going to come out after June, they're going to have to really bust their ass in order to beat the acting performance. Because I tried. I even asked you at lunch, can you think of another film where the actor just went above and beyond just what was asked in the film? And I can't think, out of all the movies I've seen, I can't think of anyone who killed that role like that. I just can't. So with Rocketman, I'll just tell you this is a great story. When you want to see the protagonist start off as the protagonist who then becomes an antagonist, and then who becomes the protagonist once again at the end gets redeemed. So if you want the arc of Star Wars, there's Darth Vader, except he's bad, and then he becomes good. Here you have that, but then I would say the acting of Dallas Bryce Howard, I noticed this time.
She was surprised. I didn't even know she was in the film. And then all of a sudden there she is, like,
And she plays his mom.
I'm a huge fan of hers. I love her. She's so great.
And she played the mom with such bitter vitriol that you could understand why she's so bitter, because her failed relationship with the husband. But then you see Reggie.
Such an asshole too.
Oh my God, was he?
Talk about toxic masculinity. Yeah, this guy.
Boy,
he knew his son was a little poofter, so he didn't give him any help or props or try to build him up or anything. He just didn't care.
No.
And then you see that scene later when he's remarried and has 2 boys.
Oh,
and the way he
man.
treats those boys, and it just crushes his heart, man, because all he wanted was to be loved.
Yes.
That's what anybody wants, right?
Yeah.
That was the message of the movie. He just wanted to be loved by anybody.
Yes.
You know, he even like the scene with him and Bernie Taupin, he wanted to be loved by, and Bernie Taupin loved him, but not in that way.
Yeah.
And that kind of crushed him too, but
Yeah.
they still, you know, to this day, they're still writing music together. Which
That's
is
right.
amazing.
Well, they made it a point that they've only had maybe one argument in their whole time as collaborator, as writer and singer. And so you get this great story of the
And the
synopsis.
actor who played Bernie Taupin, great job.
Oh, he nailed it. A lot of that great acting performances here. See, the only person in Reggie Dwight, who later on becomes Sir Elton John, the only person that liked him or cared or showed him any kind of sympathy was his grandmother. And I thought it was great in the film, the grandmother takes him, you know, to the observatory so he could practice and get better at the piano. So this is a musical. So this is another reason why it's different than Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody, if they tried it as a musical, I don't see it working as well as this. It'd be a lot of cheesy people stomping in the stadium doing stadium music because that's mostly what that is. But these are set pieces, each one of these songs. So
I love that Crocodile Rock.
Oh my goodness.
That was amazing.
And Saturday, that was good. Saturday Night, good for a fight. And they even broke out and did one of my favorite Elton John songs, which was Honky Cat, which is not like a top A song everybody remembers. Everybody remembers Benny and the Jets. But Honky Cat's a good song too, with a great rhythm and a great melody. They even pulled that off. So I would say this film, there wasn't really any flaws that I could think of. The only thing I thought, since it's a rated R film, is I think when they were ready to try to show the sex scene, it went up a little bit too up to the edge. And I was just like, cut, we get it. Cut, we get it. I don't want to see this. Cut, we get it. And that's just me, because whenever I'm in films, especially when I go with friends or if I ever go with family, if I can't sit next to my mom and watch this, it makes me real nervous, right? So I'm just like, we get it now. All you have to do is just show them getting in closer. You roll that camera up and cut it. But they decided they wanted to hang in there a little bit more and kind of, you know.
I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to show a little more authenticity instead of just trying to be very basic and just cutting away at the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can take it either way, I guess.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I guess I'm not comfortable with seeing that kind of display as much yet, and maybe who knows, but that, like I said, that's me nitpicking. That's me trying to find something wrong with Rocketman, and to be honest with you, I can't. And it's a movie that if you saw it 4 or 5 times, it wouldn't be ridiculous. If you saw it in the theater 4 or 5 times, and then if you bought it, it would not be ridiculous at all. So those are the movies that we've just seen. We've got a couple. I guess I have to see Dark Phoenix, but I need to, because after what you've said, that makes me want to go see it, because most of the stuff I've seen so far was saying,
and you may take it a completely different way. You may actually say, this is really bad and horrible. But
all they have to do is just show me that they at least tried.
This is why I don't read critics. I don't follow Rotten Tomatoes. I hate Rotten Tomatoes. It's the worst thing to happen to films. I just like to make my own decision. I like to see movies and see for myself. Okay, is this movie good? Does it entertain me? Do I think about it later? Do I want to watch it again? Will I buy it? You know, these are all the things I think of when I'm watching, or after I've watched the film. But yeah.
See, that's a good point. We should do a whole show on film criticism. And for me, I don't use it as the end-all, be-all, because if I want to go see the movie, I'm going to see it anyway. So even if they just said Black Panther sucked, I was still going to go see it. So they won't stop me, but I do find it interesting to see if there is a consensus out there. But I won't listen to any of the details, because I don't want to have myself be pre-programmed by what other people think.
Right.
So yeah, there's a way to ingest it in a way, but not to go that far. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to our last segment for today. We're doing really good. So the last segment is MILF, Movies I'd Love to Fix. And so every now and again, you know what this is about. There's a movie you couldn't wait to go see because it's going to be a sequel, or maybe it's brand new. And then you went and saw it and you went, wow, well, that certainly was a movie. That's 2 hours I'll never get back now. So the movie, we're going to attempt to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly and maybe fix it, is the movie Predator.
Some movies are not fixable.
Yes, released in 2018, or maybe it was called The Predator, and it was Shane Black was the director there. So let's start positive. What did you like about this film, Carlos?
Okay, some of the things I did like about it. It's visually nice to look at. And I credit this to Larry Fong. Larry Fong, if you don't know, he's the cinematographer who worked with Zack Snyder a lot. He did he do Batman versus Superman? I can't remember, but I know he did Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
And one of his other films. It looks good. The kills were fun. It was fairly graphic. Some of the stuff, how they killed some of the guys. Some of the dialogue was pretty good. And the music, I like how they referenced the old Alan Silvestri score from the original Predator, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I love that. Okay. That's a great score, and that enhances that movie, the original Predator, so much. You know, that little drum sounds in the background. You know, I love that score, and they used. It was nice that they used some of that in this film. That's all I got as far as.
Yeah, I enjoyed the opening scene, perhaps maybe because I didn't know what was going to happen later. So when they have the first Predator strapped down to the table and he breaks out and all that stuff, the fugitive, the smaller Predator, I thought that was kind of cool. And I see how the director Shane Black was like, okay, now Olivia Munn, we want you in the scene, but you're gonna have to undress a little bit to be able to get out of the scene. So I'm like, I see you, Shane. I see what you did there. Okay, so I would say I thought that was good. I liked the design of the bigger Predator that showed up afterwards, the Super Predator. So I guess that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was an interesting idea of a giant predator killer. You know, he comes searching for other predators. The kind of the idea of it, of predators are now trying to combine DNA and trying to make an amalgam of predators from different planets, so they can have a kind of alpha super predator, and that their planet may be dying and they would come into ours because our Earth is getting hotter and hotter, and that's more conducive to their environment. Right. Because the original was in that jungle and it was very hot there, and the predators seemed to thrive there. So that may have been part of that idea. It was an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, that part certainly wasn't horrible. So let's look at, where did this movie then go off the rails? Because it did have a few nice set pieces, but it did go off the rails. So for you, what was some things that you just thought was just...
Casting was terrible. I like Holbrook, the lead actor. What's his name? What's his name? Boyd Holbrook. Okay. Yeah. So he's the one that played Quinn, and Nebraska, played by Trevante. He was good too. The rest of them were either they had unnecessary characters, or the characters that they had were just annoying. Yeah. Thomas Jane's character was super annoying. Oh. Unnecessary. The Mexican guy, Nettles
and Peel.
Yeah, they were just. I understand they have to have all these characters because they're going to be basically fodder for the alien by the end. They're all going to get killed off. But at least, you know, they were trying to be overly clever. Peel's character he was the comic relief, I guess. But man, some of his dialogue just came off real. I didn't find anything that he said very funny at all.
Yeah, I would say that was a huge problem. When they put humor in this film, it was pretty bad. I think there was maybe one or two lines that actually landed, but everything else reminded you of people trying to be funny in a situation that's not funny. And when you can sense that, it goes flat. And especially for Peele, since he's a comedian, he's supposed to have timing down. So that shows you how bad the dialogue was written in here. Because a comedian wouldn't drop a line like that. That's not how they would set it up.
And Shane Black is known for writing very witty movies and dialogue, if you've seen some of his other movies, but his latest, like, he directed Iron Man 3, right?
Yes.
That was the worst Iron Man
I
ever saw. And he's always got to put a kid in it, and he's always got to have Christmas in it. And it just gets to be a bit, and it's played out, and it's just annoying, and I don't care for it.
See, in this movie, the child actor didn't work either, and the whole idea that the child has, I guess, some sort of autism, but he has the helmet, and somehow this kid is able to figure out space tech. And I'm like, they make, in these movies, I don't know, Hollywood, stop. if there was ever a being, an alien coming from some other universe, we wouldn't just figure out their tech inside of 5 or 10 minutes. We wouldn't even understand how it's set up. We don't understand their language. But yet people just could figure things out real quick. And so with that kid and then the dad being like, well, I'm going to go save the kid. I mean, everything that they would have postured up, which could have been good, but you just didn't buy it. And I think this is a situation where once one domino falls over, then all the rest of them start falling over, and it was going to be hard to try to bring it back afterwards. So I thought the plot was corny. I thought the characters were unlikable. I thought that it was trying to be more of a comedy more than an action film. The original had fun, had humor in it, but it was wit. It was wit, and it was kind of satire when all those guys in Predator.
It was kind of a take of male-dominated movies where it was almost kind of not making fun of it, but it was
parodied in a way,
sort of.
Yeah.
But it came out very well because these dudes were, you know, you enjoyed watching it if you were just looking at it on a surface level.
Yeah.
You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, these big muscles and this giant machine gun, the Indian, you know, Carl Weathers and Duke and, you know,
the shaving dude, yeah.
breaks his while he's shaving and that. And it was, oh man, I just love that movie. I could watch that movie a million times.
Yeah.
But nothing of this didn't get any of that.
No.
Nothing.
No.
And you know, this is minutia. This is stupid, and I hate when those channels like Everything Wrong With. But,
yeah.
But this is something that really took me out of the film. Okay, you like that scene, the opening where they had the predator on the table, and all these guys are walking around, you know, studying it and stuff. But nobody has masks on. Yeah. Nobody's afraid of contamination.
Yeah.
Something that you would never. And why didn't they do it? Was it budget constraints? Okay, it's going to cost extra to put all masks on. You know, it's a B movie. Yeah, I get it. It's not meant to be super realistic. You know, Alien. You know, you got a movie about aliens. It's not realistic. But you gotta make an effort.
Yes.
You can't just open shit and, you know, pick up a helmet and not think there might be some alien DNA that might infect you, you know? It's like...
Yeah, it's true. And I just think if you're going to remake a movie that's well beloved, a classic, right, you have to put in the time. Because you know the fan base knows this inside and out because they've probably watched the film 8, 9, or 10 times. And anybody who watches anything
they know the mythology.
8, 9, or 10 times is probably somebody who has now studied it, whether they realize they were studying the film or not. You've studied the film now if you've watched it 8 or 9 times. And so this disconnect between the directors and then how they pitch this film to others. If you're going to do a sequel, you got to have a good story. You have to have a good plot. And here, I don't think I even remember what the plot.
And the thing is, Shane Black was in the original Predator, right?
Yeah,
the guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
And you know the story behind that is they wanted to hire an extra actor, but they knew he was a writer because they needed somebody to change the script while they were shooting it. So they got him because he was a screenwriter.
Yeah.
His movie was disposable. He got killed easily, but
it's kind of like a band.
You would think, okay, this guy was in the original Predator. He knows that story. He couldn't pull off a good sequel, right?
Yeah, it's you know what this reminds me of? The analogy is of a band. It's a band that was big in the 80s that had some great hits, and then they tried to go on a tour to come back together, and then they tried to release a new album. Yeah. And you can see that a lot of time has passed since they were from the 80s to now, and they're still trying to make music from the 80s because that's what they know, that's what they were doing. But it doesn't relate to a fan base now that listens to more hip hop and trap music and reggaeton and all that, right? And so
a good example of that is Van Halen when they tried to get back together and they released some songs and the songs were horrible.
Yes, and that's what happens here. So I would say so how would we fix this movie? And it's just a couple simple things. The first one is don't make this movie until you get a better script, something that says, hey, what's happened in the world since Predator that we could bring and put to it today. What would be a real sensibility of a father-son dynamic, if that's what you're trying to do? How would a father-son dynamic look like today? Yep. Right? Because you had the father-son dynamic of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, which was perfect for the 70s, right? Coming right off of Vietnam and civil rights and all that stuff. So either those things push you together, or they pull you apart. So you needed something to say about how a dad is trying to understand a young son and then his mom, like, because you have these families are all broken up. in weird ways, and it's never explored. It's just that, look, they don't like each other, and look, our son's a prodigy at something. You just got to put more texture around that if you want people to buy that. And I think in this one, if they were going for the fact that you had I think it would be good if you have the smaller predator join forces with the humans to try to take out and stop them, and it's the kid has some sort of link that would work, and you could make that through anything, like for whatever reason the predator sees, oh, this is no threat, this one is injured, this one has autism, and it knows, and it feels sorry. Maybe predators feel sorry for particular species that are wounded, because they like to hunt things that they know is a challenge. Exactly. So therefore, it might have a little bit more empathy for this kid, because this kid, right? And it just knows that. So there's that thing about the animal and the kid relationship you can have, and you can have that with this predator, and make that predator an empathetic character, to where when the big predator shows up, you're actually kind of rooting for this predator, even though at first you were scared. And I think if you could have done that, and write a script around that, and then make the guys really badasses and not just a bunch of goofballs and nerdy weirdo types that are just unlikable. Guys who are willing to sacrifice for a good reason, and you like the characters first. I think that's all you would have needed, and you could have done it.
I would have also put in possibly a different setting. Instead of a neighborhood, a baseball field, a school. Mm-hmm. This is like, it's kind of boring. Put it in an airport, or a factory or something interesting to look at behind this, instead of just this bland landscape.
Yeah.
That was just like
kind of a give up.
Yeah, like I said, maybe it was budget. Again, it was probably budget constraint. They probably just found it was probably one of those things where they shot it in a state like Georgia, where it's super cheap to film there. They give them all kinds of incentives to come film. And I guarantee it was probably something like that.
Yeah. Where
it was cheap to film wherever they shot it. I don't know where it was shot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well.
The editing could have been a lot better, because there was certain scenes that did not flow very well and were kind of confusing. That baseball scene on the baseball field.
Yeah.
The cars show up, and then here comes the Winnebago. This is like, did they pull out? Did they jump from one scene and forgot to put a transition in or something? It just came off, and maybe that might be something where I understand there was he had to do some changes and reshoots and I don't know, studio notes or whatever, and it could have been one of those things where the director did not get to make the movie that he really wanted to make. If that's the case, unfortunately, that could have been why it didn't come off very well.
Yeah. Well, either way, folks, great episode, great thoughts again. Just because a movie is bad and it's one in a franchise that you love doesn't mean that it's not cathartic to talk about it, to see what could have happened. And who knows, maybe later on in the future, people will get together and their input changes things, and maybe this creates a whole bunch of new filmmakers who remember what's missing, along with just throwing out a bunch of
blank lines. You can take lessons from bad films, for sure, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's a solid point. Well, we want to give some shout outs again, probably on our way out here. So again, Stephanie, thanks for checking us out. And I know Mad Mel, I didn't see her this last time.
Yeah, I actually converse with Mad Mel now. And sometimes she has a hard time getting to watch a show because of her job and stuff, but when she can, she does watch it, and
that's awesome.
She enjoys it, and she likes her voices.
There you go. Well, Mad Mel, we love you. Thank you. Tell your friends. The more we can get more people to watch this allows us to create more. It allows us to pick up the production. It allows us to do just a whole bunch of things. And plus, if you love talking about movies, get your friends on here, because that's what we do. We love to talk about movies. We love to collect movies. It's the whole thing. It's all about fulfillment. When you walk out that theater, you should feel like, wow, I got more than my $15 worth. And then you should go find a friend that you can't wait to talk about, or turn on your phone and start talking about it, or comment here. So we want to tell you today, go ahead, comment, tell us about some films. If there's a film you want us to talk about specifically, let us know. We'll throw it in our intro at the beginning, and we'll do that sort of thing.
Talk about an old classic?
Yeah.
We'll watch it
Absolutely, and we're going to
Break
keep
it down.
watching. We'll keep watching as y'all keep watching. So the next episode will be June 23rd. You know, we do the opposite Sunday, so it's the 2nd and 4th, I believe. So June 23rd. By that time, there'll be new picks of the week to talk about. I believe, what is it?
It's coming out soon.
I know we just had the Phoenix come out, but isn't there Toy Story 4 coming out and a few others? But there's a few more coming out, so we'll be ready to talk about that as well. And if there's a movie you'd like to see us fix, send it to us. Let us know in the comment section. We'll put that into the MILF and we'll get that done. So Carlos, how can they find you?
You can find me at Film Samurai on Twitter and Facebook.
Awesome. And you know, the Vegabomber on YouTube, Vegabomber also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I think on Instagram it's Vegabomber 007 because there's someone else named Vegabomber, which is kind of strange. So until then, we'll see y'all the next time, and we're going to go ahead and kick out the jams to send us on.